Sarah Miller stood in her kitchen, hands still damp from washing dishes, when her 8-year-old daughter Emma walked through the front door. It was Tuesday, October 15th, 2019, and something was wrong. Emma's eyes were swollen and red. Her school uniform was wrinkled in odd places, and she clutched a small gift bag against her chest like it might protect her from something terrible. "Emma, honey, what happened at school today?" The little girl looked up at her mother, bottom lip trembling. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "my teacher did it again." Sarah felt her blood turn to ice. Again? What did she mean by again? What did he do again, sweetheart? But Emma just shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I can't tell." He said, "I can't tell." This was the moment Sarah's world began to crumble. She had noticed things, small, strange things over the past few weeks. Emma coming home with clothes she didn't recognize, gifts she couldn't explain, a sudden reluctance to talk about her day. But this was different. What would you do if your child came home and said those words to you? 3 months earlier, everything had seemed perfect. Sarah was a single mother working 2 jobs, mornings at the local bank, evenings cleaning offices. Emma was her whole world, a bright, artistic child who loved drawing horses and always had her nose in a book. They lived in Millbrook, a small town where everyone knew everyone else's business. It was the kind of place where you didn't lock your doors and children rode their bikes until dark without a care in the world. When Emma started 3rd grade at Millbrook Elementary, Sarah felt grateful. Her daughter's teacher was Mr. David Richardson, a 34-year-old educator who had been teaching at the school for 6 years. Parents considered him a blessing. He was patient, creative, and seemed to genuinely care about his students. "Emma just loves Mr. Richardson," Sarah would tell her sister during their weekly phone calls. "She talks about him constantly. Says he makes learning fun." The other parents agreed. David Richardson was handsome in a clean-cut way, with sandy brown hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He organized after-school art clubs, stayed late to help struggling students, and always had encouraging words for nervous parents. "Your Emma has real artistic talent," he told Sarah during their first parent-teacher conference. "I've set up a special corner in my classroom where she can work on her drawings when she finishes her regular assignments early." Sarah beamed with pride. Her daughter was thriving. If only she had known what was really happening in that special corner. It started with little things. Things so small that Sarah almost missed them entirely. Emma came home one Tuesday with a brand new set of colored pencils. Professional grade, expensive ones that Sarah could never afford. "Where did you get these, honey?" "Mr. Richardson gave them to me. He said I was his best artist." Sarah smiled, touched by her daughter's teacher's generosity, but something nagged at her. Why would a teacher spend his own money on such expensive supplies for just one student? The next week, it was a small stuffed animal, a white rabbit with pink ears. "Another gift from Mr. Richardson?" Emma nodded, but this time she didn't meet her mother's eyes. Then came the snacks. Fancy cookies that weren't served in the school cafeteria. Juice boxes that weren't part of the regular lunch program. "He must really think you're special," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice light. Emma's response chilled her. "He says I am. He says I'm different from the other kids." Sarah began to pay closer attention to her daughter's behavior. Emma had always been chatty about her day, eager to share every detail of what she'd learned and who she played with at recess. But lately, she'd become secretive. When Sarah asked about school, Emma would give short, vague answers. "How was our class today?" "Fine." "Did you work on anything special?" "Not really." Most concerning of all, Emma had started hiding things in her room. Sarah discovered drawings tucked under her mattress. Not the happy, colorful pictures Emma usually created, but dark, confusing sketches that made Sarah's stomach turn. One drawing showed a stick figure of a girl standing next to a much larger figure of a man. The girl's mouth was covered by the man's hand. When Sarah asked about it, Emma snatched the paper away. "It's nothing, Mommy. Just a game we play." But one rainy Thursday in September, Emma came home without her jacket. "Where's your coat?" "Sweetheart, it's freezing outside." Emma's explanation made no sense. "I left it in the classroom. Mr. Richardson said he'd bring it to me later." "Why would he bring it here? Why didn't you just get it before you left?" Emma's face crumpled. I forgot." That evening, there was a knock at the door. Sarah opened it to find David Richardson standing on her porch, holding Emma's pink jacket. "Sorry to bother you," he said with that charming smile that had fooled so many parents. "Emma left this behind, and I thought she might need it for tomorrow." He stepped inside without being invited, his eyes scanning their modest living room. "You have a lovely home," he said. "Very cozy. I bet Emma feels safe and comfortable here." The way he said safe made Sarah's skin crawl, though she couldn't say why. As he handed over the jacket, his fingers brushed against Sarah's hand, lingering just a moment too long. "Emma is such a special girl," he continued. "So mature for her age. So understanding." After he left, Sarah stood in her doorway, watching his car disappear into the darkness. Something about his visit felt wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on what. She had no idea it wouldn't be the last time David Richardson showed up at her home uninvited. The parent-teacher conference in early October should have been routine. Sarah arrived at the school at 7 p.m., joining the queue of parents waiting to discuss their children's progress. When her turn came, David Richardson greeted her with that same unsettling warmth. "Sarah, so wonderful to see you again. Please sit down." His classroom was cheerful and bright, decorated with student artwork and motivational posters. But Sarah's attention was drawn to one corner, a small area separated from the rest of the classroom by a colorful screen. "That's Emma's special space," Richardson explained, noticing her gaze. "I told you about it before. She does her best work there." "It's very private," Sarah observed. "Emma seems to prefer it that way. Some children are more creative when they feel they have their own special place." Richardson pulled out Emma's portfolio, spreading her artwork across his desk. The pieces were beautiful, far more sophisticated than typical third-grade work. "As you can see, Emma has exceptional talent. I've been working with her one-on-one to develop her skills." "One-on-one?" "Oh yes. During lunch breaks, after school sometimes. She's so eager to learn, and I'm always happy to help a dedicated student." Sarah felt that familiar chill. How often does this happen? 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes more if she's working on a special project. Richardson leaned forward, his voice dropping to what seemed like a confidential tone. "I have to say, Sarah, you're doing an amazing job raising Emma. She's told me so much about your life, how hard you work, the sacrifices you make for her. She adores you." Sarah frowned. She had never discussed her personal life with Emma in detail. How much had her daughter shared with this man? "She talks about you quite a bit," Richardson continued. "About how you work late sometimes, how she worries about money. Such a caring child. It's clear she feels very responsible for taking care of you." The way he said it made Sarah's stomach turn. Was he suggesting that Emma felt obligated to do things to help her mother? Things that made her uncomfortable? "Mr. Richardson, has Emma seemed upset or anxious to you lately?" His expression shifted, becoming more guarded. "Not at all. She's been perfectly normal. Happy even." "Why do you ask?" "She's been different at home. More secretive." Richardson's smile returned, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That's perfectly normal for children her age. They're developing independence. testing boundaries. Nothing to worry about. As Sarah left the conference, she caught sight of Emma through the window of the after-school program. Her daughter was sitting alone, staring at nothing, that same blank expression on her face. When they got home that night, Emma went straight to her room without her usual chatter about dinner or homework. Sarah stood outside her daughter's door, listening to muffled sounds from inside. Was Emma crying? "Sweetheart, are you okay?" "I'm fine, Mommy. Just tired." But Sarah knew her daughter better than that. Emma wasn't fine, and neither was she. That night, Sarah made a decision. She started keeping a journal, writing down every strange incident, every unexplained gift, every odd comment or behavior. She had no idea that this simple notebook would eventually help uncover the disturbing truth. By mid-October, Sarah's journal contained 14 separate incidents. When she read them all together, a terrifying pattern emerged. October 3rd, Emma came home with a new pink sweater, claiming she spilled juice on her uniform shirt and Mr. Richardson gave her something clean to wear. October 7th, Emma missed the bus home. Richardson called to say he would drive her home personally because she had been helping him organize supplies. October 10th, Emma arrived home with muddy shoes but clean clothes. Said she fell at recess and had to change. October 14th, Emma came home 2 hours late from school. Claimed she was working on a special art project with Mr. Richardson. Each incident had a reasonable explanation. Accidents happened. Teachers help students. But taken together, they painted a disturbing picture. Sarah began asking other parents subtle questions. Has your child ever mentioned staying after school with Mr. Richardson? Oh, yes, replied Janet Morrison, mother of 7-year-old Kyle. He's so dedicated. Kyle just loves their special tutoring sessions. Tutoring sessions? Every Tuesday and Thursday. Mr. Richardson says Kyle needs extra help with reading. But when Sarah checked with Kyle's previous teacher, she learned that Kyle was actually reading above grade level. She spoke with Maria Santos, whose daughter Lily was in Emma's class. Lily came home with a beautiful necklace last week, Maria said. Said Mr. Richardson gave it to her for being extra good during a private lesson. Private lessons, special projects, individual attention. The pieces were falling into place, and Sarah didn't like the picture they created. She decided to drive by the school one afternoon during her lunch break. It was 2:30 p.m. The children should have been in regular classes. But through the window of Richardson's classroom, she saw Emma sitting alone in that special corner, the colorful screen pulled around her for privacy. Where were the other students? Sarah felt sick. She wanted to march into that classroom and demand to know what was happening to her daughter. But she had no proof of anything inappropriate, just a growing sense of dread and a collection of coincidences that might mean nothing. That evening, she tried once more to get Emma to open up. Honey, do you like school? Yes, Mommy. Do you like Mr. Richardson? Emma hesitated, just for a moment, but Sarah caught it. He's nice to me. What kind of things do you do during your special art time? Just art stuff. Can you tell me about it? Emma's face shut down completely. I don't want to talk about it. Emma, you know you can tell Mommy anything, right? Anything at all. For a moment, Sarah thought her daughter might speak. Emma's eyes filled with tears, and she opened her mouth as if to say something important. But then she shook her head and ran to her room. Sarah sat in her empty kitchen, staring at her journal, wondering if she was losing her mind. Maybe she was reading too much into normal teacher-student interactions. Maybe her own childhood experiences with an abusive uncle were making her see things where none existed. But deep in her gut, she knew something was wrong. She just didn't know how wrong until that terrible Tuesday in October. Tuesday, October 15th started like any other day. Sarah kissed Emma goodbye at 7:30 a.m., watching her daughter trudge toward the school bus with her heavy backpack and lunchbox. Emma seemed more withdrawn than usual, but Sarah attributed it to the typical Tuesday blues. "Have a good day, sweetheart. I'll see you at 3:30. Emma turned back and looked at her mother with an expression Sarah would never forget. A mixture of fear, sadness, and something that looked almost like an apology. "I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby." Sarah went to work as usual, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She checked her phone constantly, half expecting a call from the school. At 3:30, she positioned herself at the living room window to watch for Emma's return. But 3:30 came and went with no sign of her daughter. 3:45, still nothing. At 4 o'clock, Sarah called the school. "Millbrook Elementary, this is Janet." "Hi, this is Sarah Miller, Emma's mother. She hasn't come home yet today. Is she still there?" "Let me check with her teacher." Sarah waited, her heart pounding. "Mrs. Miller? Mr. Richardson says Emma left with the other students at the regular dismissal time. She should have been home by now." But Emma wasn't home. And when Sarah called 3 of her daughter's friends, their mothers confirmed that Emma hadn't been on the bus. At 4:15, just as Sarah was about to call the police, the front door opened. Emma walked in, and Sarah's world tilted on its axis. Her daughter's hair was damp and disheveled. Her school uniform was gone, replaced by clothes Sarah had never seen before. A pink dress that was too big for her small frame, clearly adult-sized and hastily shortened. Emma's eyes were swollen from crying, and she moved carefully, like someone who was hurt. In her hands, she carried a small gift bag with tissue paper sticking out the top. "Emma, where you been? I was so worried." Emma didn't answer. She just stood there, shaking, staring at the floor. "Sweetheart, what happened to your clothes?" I spilled something. Mr. Richardson gave me these to wear." "What did you spill?" "I don't remember." Sarah knelt down to her daughter's level. "Emma, look at me. What happened at school today?" Emma's face crumpled, and the words Sarah had been dreading finally came. "My teacher did it again." "Did what again?" "Emma, you have to tell Mommy what he did." But Emma just shook her head frantically. "I can't tell. I promised I wouldn't tell. He said if I told, bad things would happen to you." Sarah felt like she was drowning. "What kind of bad things?" "He said you might lose your job. He said you might not be able to take care of me anymore. He said they might take me away from you." "Oh, baby." "Emma, look at me. That will never happen. I will always take care of you, no matter what. But I need to know what Mr. Richardson did to you." Emma's small body shook with sobs. "He said it was our special secret. He said all the kids have special secrets with him. He said it means he likes us." Sarah's hands trembled as she reached for the gift bag her daughter was clutching. Inside was a silver necklace with Emma's initials engraved on a heart-shaped pendant. The kind of intimate, personal gift that no teacher should give to a student. "When did he give you this?" "Today. After he did again." "Emma, I need you to tell me exactly what he did. I know you're scared, but I promise you won't get in trouble. And I promise nothing bad will happen to me." But Emma had reached her limit. She curled up in a ball on the living room floor, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. "I can't, Mommy. I can't tell. I'm too scared." Sarah held her daughter, feeling Emma's small body shake with trauma and terror. That's when she made the decision that would change everything. She was calling 911. Sarah's hand shook as she dialed 911. Emma still crying in her arms. 911. What's your emergency? I think my daughter has been abused by her teacher. The words felt surreal coming out her mouth. This couldn't be happening. Not to them. Not in their safe little town. "Ma'am, I'm going to connect you with a detective. Can you tell me your location?" Within 20 minutes, Detective Lisa Chun was at their door. She was a small Asian woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice that immediately put Sarah at ease. "Mrs. Miller, I know this is difficult, but I need to ask Emma some questions. Is that okay with you?" Sarah looked at her daughter, who had stopped crying but was still clinging to her mother's side. "Emma, this is Detective Chun. She's here to help us. She needs to know what happened at school today." Detective Chun knelt down to Emma's level, just as Sarah had done. "Hi, Emma. I know you're scared, but I want you to know that you're safe now, and you're not in trouble. Sometimes adults do things to children that aren't okay, and it's my job to make sure those adults can't hurt anyone else." Emma looked up at her mother. "Is it really okay to tell?" "Yes, baby. It's okay. It's more than okay. It's important." What came out next, in halting, whispered words, was every parent's worst nightmare. "Mr. Richardson made me take off my clothes. He said it was for a special art project where I had to be a model. He took pictures of me, and then he touched me in places that felt bad." Detective Chun maintained her professional composure, but Sarah could see the anger flash in her eyes. "How many times did this happen, Emma?" "Lots of times. He said it was normal. He said all teachers do special projects like this with their favorite students." "Did he touch any of the other children?" Emma nodded. "He said we all had to keep it secret from our parents. He said if we told, our families would be in trouble." Detective Chun spent the next hour gently coaxing details from Emma. The stories that emerged painted a picture of systematic abuse that had been going on for months. Richardson had isolated different children during lunch breaks and after school hours. He had convinced them that the abuse was normal, part of special advanced lessons that only the smartest, most mature students received. He had taken photographs. He had given gifts to buy silence. He had used the children's love for their families against them, threatening that their parents would suffer if they spoke up. "Emma, you are so brave for telling us this," Detective Chin said. "You've done exactly the right thing." After Emma was taken to the hospital for a medical examination, Detective Chun sat with Sarah in the waiting room. "Mrs. Miller, I need you to know that this is going to be a long process. There will be interviews, court dates, and media attention. Are you prepared for that?" Sarah thought about her quiet life in their small town, about her job at the bank where everyone knew everyone else's business, about Emma's recovery, and how this would affect her daughter's future. "I don't care about any of that," she said firmly. "I only care about making sure this man can never hurt another child." "Good. Because based on what Emma has told us, I think there are other victims, and we're going to need your help to find them." Detective Chin was right. Within 48 hours of Richardson's arrest, 3 other families had come forward. But the investigation also revealed something that would haunt Sarah for the rest of her life. There had been warning signs for months. Other parents had noticed odd behavior, strange gifts, secretive meetings. But like Sarah, they had given Richardson the benefit of the doubt. They had trusted the institution of the school, the authority of a teacher, the word of a respected community member. How many children could have been spared if someone had spoken up sooner? The arrest of David Richardson sent shockwaves through Millbrook. The local newspaper ran the story on its front page. Elementary teacher charged with child abuse. Within days, the phone call started. First came Kyle Morrison's mother, Janet. Her voice was shaking when she called Sarah. "I should have known. Kyle's been having nightmares for months. He kept saying Mr. Richardson made him do grown-up things, but I thought he was just being dramatic." Then Maria Santos called about her daughter Lily. "She's been wetting the bed again, and she hides whenever we drive past the school. I thought she was just going through a difficult phase." Detective Chun coordinated interviews with all the families. The stories were heartbreakingly similar. Gifts, special attention, private sessions, and a sophisticated manipulation system that convinced children they were complicit in their own abuse. Richardson had been careful. He had selected children from single-parent homes or families where parents worked multiple jobs and might not notice changes in behavior. He had groomed not just the children, but their parents as well, presenting himself as a dedicated educator who cared deeply about his students. The search of Richardson's home and classroom revealed the full scope of his crimes. Police found hundreds of photographs of children in various states of undress, a collection of children's underwear kept as trophies, detailed journals documenting his interactions with victims, gift receipts showing a pattern of purchases designed to manipulate children. Most damning of all were the digital communications. Richardson had been part of an online network of child predators, sharing images and techniques for grooming victims. As more evidence emerged, the charges against him multiplied. What had started as accusations from 4 families eventually expanded to include 7 children spanning 3 years. But the investigation also revealed systematic failures that had allowed Richardson to operate with impunity. Previous complaints have been dismissed or inadequately investigated. Warning signs have been ignored. Background checks have been superficial. The school district hired an independent investigator to review their policies and procedures. The report was scathing. The district's failure to properly investigate complaints, combined with inadequate supervision of staff and students, created an environment where abuse could flourish undetected. Richardson's defense attorney tried to paint him as a dedicated teacher who had been misunderstood, whose kindness towards students had been misinterpreted by overly protective parents. But the evidence was overwhelming. The photographs, the testimonies, the pattern of behavior that could not be explained away as innocent mentorship. As the case moved toward trial, Sarah found herself becoming an advocate not just for Emma, but for all the families affected by Richardson's crimes. She testified before the school board, demanding policy changes. She spoke with other parents about recognizing warning signs. She held Emma close every night, helping her daughter understand that what had happened was not her fault. "Mommy, why did Mr. Richardson hurt us?" Emma asked one evening as Sarah tucked her into bed. It was a question Sarah had asked herself 1,000 times. "I don't know, baby. Some people are sick in their minds, and they do terrible things. But that doesn't make it okay, and it's not your fault." "Will he go to jail?" "Yes. He's going to jail for a very long time." "Good," Emma said with a fierceness that broke Sarah's heart. "I don't want him to hurt any more kids." The trial was set to begin in March 2020, 6 months after Richardson's arrest. Sarah prepared herself for the hardest battle of her life. The courthouse was packed on the first day of the trial. Media attention had been intense. A respected teacher accused of systematically abusing his students was front-page news across the state. Sarah sat in the front row, Emma beside her. Her daughter had insisted on being present, despite the difficulty of facing her abuser in court. "I want to look at him," Emma had said. "I want him to know I'm not scared anymore." District Attorney Rebecca Torres had built a comprehensive case. In her opening statement, she outlined the evidence methodically. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, over the next week you will hear testimony from 7 brave children who trusted David Richardson to educate and protect them. Instead, he systematically abused that trust, manipulating and harming the most vulnerable members of our community." Richardson's defense attorney, Marcus Webb, countered with claims of mass hysteria and coach testimony. "My client is a dedicated educator who has devoted his life to children. These accusations are the result of parental paranoia and children's active imaginations, influenced by leading questions and media coverage." But when the evidence was presented, Webb's arguments crumbled. Detective Chin testified about the photographs found in Richardson's possession, images that could not be explained away as innocent classroom activities. The digital forensics expert described Richardson's online activities, his participation in networks that shared child abuse material. Child psychologist Dr. Amanda Foster explained the sophisticated grooming techniques Richardson had used, how he had systematically broken down the children's defenses and normalized inappropriate behavior. "This was not impulsive behavior," Dr. Foster testified. "This was calculated, predatory conduct designed to exploit children's trust and innocence." But the most powerful testimony came from the children themselves. Emma was the first to take the stand. At 9 years old, she was the youngest witness, but she spoke with a clarity that left the courtroom in stunned silence. "He told me that what we were doing was special," she said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "He said it meant he liked me more than the other kids. He said if I told anyone, bad things would happen to my mommy." Richardson sat at the defense table, his head down, refusing to make eye contact with his accusers. Kyle Morrison testified next, describing the tutoring sessions that had nothing to do with reading. Lily Santos spoke about the fear that kept her awake at night, the nightmares that started after Richardson began his special art projects. One by one, 7 children told their stories. 7 children who had been robbed of their innocence by someone they trusted. The defense presented character witnesses, other teachers, parents of former students, community members who spoke about Richardson's dedication and kindness. But their testimony felt hollow in the face of the physical evidence and the heartbreaking accounts of the victims. During cross-examination, Webb tried to poke holes in the children's stories, suggesting they had been coached or confused. "Isn't it possible, Emma, that you misunderstood what Mr. Richardson was doing? That these were just normal teaching activities?" Emma looked directly at Richardson for the first time since the trial began. "No," she said firmly. "I know the difference between teaching and hurting. He hurt me, and he hurt my friends, and he told us not to tell because he knew it was wrong." The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Richardson showed no emotion as the verdict was read, but Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders that she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. Justice had been served, but the healing was just beginning. 2 months after the verdict, David Richardson returned to court for sentencing. Judge Patricia Williams had reviewed all the evidence, all the testimony, all the victim impact statements. Her words were measured but filled with righteous anger. "Mr. Richardson, you were entrusted with the care and education of children. Instead, you systematically abused that trust, causing immeasurable harm to 7 innocent victims and their families." She sentenced him to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole for 15 years. "You stole something precious from these children, their sense of safety, their ability to trust, their childhood innocence. The impact of your crimes will last far longer than your prison sentence." Richardson was also required to register as a sex offender and was banned from any contact with minors upon his eventual release. The civil lawsuits against the school district resulted in a multi-million-dollar settlement and comprehensive policy changes designed to prevent future abuse. All staff would undergo annual background checks and training on recognizing signs of abuse. Security cameras were installed in all classrooms. No teacher would be allowed to be alone with a student behind closed doors. But for Sarah and Emma, the real work was just beginning. Emma started therapy with Dr. Sarah Goldstein, a specialist in childhood trauma. The sessions were difficult. Emma had to relive her experiences, process her feelings of guilt and confusion, learn to trust adults again. "It's going to take time," Dr. Goldstein told Sarah. "Emma is resilient, but healing from this kind of trauma is a long process. There will be setbacks. There will be good days and bad days." Sarah struggled with her own guilt. How had she missed the signs for so long? What if she had acted sooner? Could she have prevented other children from being hurt? "You can't blame yourself," Detective Chin told her during one of their follow-up meetings. "Predators like Richardson are skilled manipulators. They're experts at hiding their true nature and exploiting trust." The other families faced similar struggles. Kyle Morrison developed severe anxiety and had to transfer to a different school. Lily Santos refused to be alone with any adult male for months. But there were signs of hope too. Emma's artwork, which had become dark and troubling during the abuse, gradually returned to the bright, happy pictures she used to create. She made new friends at her new school, where the staff were aware of her history and provided extra support. Most importantly, she learned that speaking up had been the right thing to do. "Mommy, I'm proud that I told you," she said one evening as they worked on homework together. "Why is that, sweetheart?" "Because now Mr. Richardson can't hurt any more kids. And other kids know that if someone hurts them, they should tell too." Sarah's journal, which had documented those early warning signs, became part of training materials used by schools and law enforcement agencies. "Trust your instincts," Sarah would tell other parents at the support groups she eventually began facilitating. "If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't second-guess yourself when your child's safety is at stake." The case also led to legislative changes at the state level. New laws required more comprehensive background checks for school employees and mandatory reporting training for all staff. 3 years after Richardson's conviction, Sarah received a letter from a teacher in another district. "I wanted to thank you," it read. "After reading about your case, I recognized similar warning signs with a colleague at my school. Because of your courage in speaking up, we were able to stop another predator before any children were harmed." It was proof that Emma's courage and Sarah's advocacy had made a difference beyond their own family. 5 years have passed since that terrible October day when Emma came home and whispered those life-changing words, "My teacher did it again." Emma is now 13, a bright teenager who loves art, plays soccer, and dreams of becoming a child psychologist. "I want to help other kids who have been hurt," she tells her mother. "I want them to know they're not alone." The trauma will always be part of Emma's story, but it doesn't define her. She has learned that she is strong, that her voice matters, that speaking truth to power can change the world. Sarah has become an advocate for child safety, working with schools and law enforcement agencies to improve policies and training. She still keeps a journal, but now it's filled with stories of hope. Children who have been helped, predators who have been stopped, families who have been saved by someone who was brave enough to speak up. David Richardson remains in prison, where he will stay for many years to come. His name has been removed from the Millbrook Elementary School's dedicated teacher plaque, and his classroom has been renovated completely. The other victims are healing too. Kyle Morrison is excelling in high school. Lily Santos has discovered a talent for music. Each child has found their own path to recovery. The scars remain, but they have become sources of strength rather than shame. What would I tell other parents who might be facing this situation? Sarah reflects. Trust your child. Trust your instincts. Don't let anyone convince you that your concerns aren't valid. And remember, it's not your job to have proof before you act. It's your job to protect your child. Let the professionals worry about evidence and legal procedures. Your only responsibility is to listen when your child needs you most. Emma adds her own advice for other children who might be suffering in silence. It's scary to tell, but telling is what makes it stop. The adults who hurt us want us to stay quiet because they know what they're doing is wrong. When we use our voices, we take away their power. The town of Millbrook has changed too. Parents are more vigilant, schools are more transparent, and the community has learned that evil can hide behind the most trusted facades. But they have also learned that when good people stand together, when children are believed and protected, justice can prevail. Emma's last drawing hangs in their kitchen now. A bright, colorful picture of a girl with her arms raised in victory, standing in front of a courthouse with the words "Justice for all children" written in bold letters across the top. The case of David Richardson serves as a stark reminder that predators often hide in plain sight, using positions of trust and authority to access and abuse children. But it also demonstrates the power of listening to children, trusting parental instincts, and refusing to stay silent when something feels wrong. In the 5 years since Richardson's conviction, not a single case of child abuse has been reported at Millbrook Elementary. The new safety protocols, increased awareness, and culture of transparency have created an environment where children are truly protected. Sarah often thinks about that moment when Emma first said those terrifying words, "My teacher did it again." At the time, it felt like the end of the world. But in reality, it was the beginning of justice. Those words saved my daughter, Sarah reflects. They saved other children too. And maybe, just maybe, they'll save children we'll never even know about. Kids whose parents will recognize the warning signs because they heard Emma's story. The mother and daughter have written a book together about their experience, with proceeds going to support other families affected by child abuse. Emma, now a confident teenager, speaks at schools and conferences about the importance of speaking up. When something bad happens to you, she tells audiences of children and parents, it's not your fault, but it is your power to make it stop. Use your voice. Tell someone you trust. Keep telling until someone listens and helps you. Their story has become a beacon of hope for other families facing similar traumas. Support groups use their case as an example of how to navigate the legal system, how to help children heal, and how to transform tragedy into advocacy. The silver necklace that Richardson gave Emma, the one that helped investigators understand the pattern of grooming, now sits locked away as evidence. But Emma wears a different necklace now, one that Sarah gave her on the 5th anniversary of Richardson's sentencing. It's a simple gold chain with a pendant shaped like a phoenix rising from flames. You rose from the ashes of what happened to you, Sarah told her daughter when she gave it to her. You turned your pain into power, your trauma into triumph. You saved yourself, and you saved others. Emma touches the necklace often, a reminder that even the darkest experiences can be transformed into light for others walking similar paths. Today, as Sarah watches her daughter laugh with friends, excel in school, and plan for a future dedicated to helping other children, she knows that speaking up was the hardest and most important thing she ever did. Sometimes the words that shatter your world are the same words that save it. My teacher did it again. For words that exposed a monster, protected countless children, and proved that even the smallest voice could demand the biggest justice. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe so you won't our next posts.